Okay, welcome everybody. We are expecting a few more people, but I am going to get started because I'm conscious that we only have 30 minutes as part of this webinar. So my name's Katrina. Some of you may have met me before, some of you may not have, and I'm going to be taking you through our new programme that we've written to meet the national curriculum for relationships education, relationship sex education and the health education curriculum. Just to say, I am recording this webinar and it's so that we can put it onto our YouTube channel and share it as part of our marketing strategy, so that we can share this far and wide to make sure that everybody is aware of what it is that we're offering. So if you do raise any questions as part of this webinar, I just want you to be aware that this may be shared after today. So in terms of this platform, just so you're aware of how it works, should you experience any difficulties whilst you're here, you should be able to see something similar to what I have here on my screen. If you can't, then of course you can click the arrow and then it'll open up and you'll be able to see some of the other options that are available. If you have any technical difficulties as part of this webinar, then please simply click File and you can exit and then return using the link that you were provided with. Should you have any difficulties in terms of audio, then you can dial in. If you click on the camera icon, you'll be able to use your mobile device to be able to call in, and this is completely free for you to be able to do. Any questions that you have, please do submit in the question box. I will monitor them as I deliver this webinar and I'll try and answer them as I go. There is also the option for you to raise your hand should you wish to ask a question, and I will try and keep track of that, and at which point I'll get you to unmute and then of course and come to you to answer your question. If I do say just bear with me, it's because I am going to come onto it, so it's not me trying to avoid your question. Is simply me pausing because we will be moving on to that point very soon. So these are the 4 areas I'm going to try and take you through over the next 30 minutes. And the first one I want to start off with is, who are we? For those of you who may never have worked with us, we're Education Child Protection Limited, and we have a number of consultants working for us. And our full-time staff, those of us that work day-to-day, are the ones that you can see on the screen here. And of course, you can see me. I'm one of our safeguarding consultants. We specialise in child protection and adult safeguarding. We work with a number of different organisations and agencies, as well as local authorities, to make sure all staff are meeting their statutory requirements surrounding child protection training, as well as adults at risk training. We offer virtual training as well as face-to-face training. And not only do we work with professionals, we also work with children and young people, as well as parents and carers. So our portfolio is really quite diverse in terms of the work that we do. And we have lots of different backgrounds in terms of where we've come from before we've entered this world of safeguarding. And I really would like to believe that because of our careers, this has enabled us to make sure that any training that we implement, of course, we're adding context to it, and we're talking from experience, which a lot of people generally tend to like and value in terms of our training. But I imagine that there's a number of you, of course, that we've worked with before, so you'll know exactly what it is that we do. So as I said, I'm one of our safeguarding consultants. I'm one of the people responsible for writing this programme to meet the curriculum requirements. Writing programs is something I absolutely love. I love being creative, and I love making sure that I can meet the required outcomes that are set by the curriculums. And it's just generally a passion of mine and something I'm incredibly interested in. So I've tried to make sure that our training programme, along with my colleague Lizzie, is quite diverse in terms of the way in which we would like you to teach your pupils. So I want to talk about our programme then. So our programme is written to map the 13 topics taken from the new national curriculum. So whether or not you're working with primary education or you're working with secondary education, you'll know that there's 13 topics within the national curriculum. And that is reflected in our programme because our programme is mapped to that entire curriculum. Now, for each programme, it's then been broken down by us into separate lessons. Now, dependent on the topic, will depend on the number of lessons that we have written. So if you're going to be looking at something like mental health and well-being to begin with, then this is a topic which has 2 lessons. Whereas if you're looking to deliver drugs, alcohol and tobacco, you know, in secondary school, then of course we'll be looking at delivering 3 lessons. Whereas at primary school it may be 2, but only relevant to years 5 and 6. So we've really broken this down to be reflective of the age bracket in which it's appropriate for, and that really does determine the number of lessons that we've written. And again, with varying teaching hours, you can pick and choose ultimately which sections of the lessons you would like to deliver, but we do feel that by delivering all of the content that we've created provides more context, even if it doesn't necessarily map against the criteria. It is additional learning which of course ultimately supports children and young people in terms of developing their life skills. Now, as part of our programme, which comes as part of a membership, which I'll talk about fairly soon, you'll be provided with schemes of work, schemes of learning and crib sheets. Now, the schemes of learning are written to the different key stages, whether you're working at primary or secondary school. And then our crib sheets, of course, detail the amount of time is taken to deliver a lesson, as well as the specific curriculum in which it maps against. I'm going to show you some examples of these fairly soon, so don't worry if this doesn't make an awful lot of sense yet, but it will when I show you what they look like. Now, with every topic, as I've stated, you're provided with lesson plans. Now, with every lesson, you will be provided with a PowerPoint as well as resources. Now, in terms of resources, these include things like worksheets, activities, games, role plays, as well as videos that you can utilise with your pupils. Because as I have said, we have really tried to diversify the teaching methods that we would like you to utilise with your pupils, you know, primarily to make sure that it's engaging and of course it's interesting and relevant to children and young people today. So to start off with, let's take a look at some of our samples that we have for primary education. So this is an example of one of the schemes of learning that we have for years 3 to 4. Now, this is only on the topic of mental well-being. I wouldn't possibly be able to show you all 13. This is just to give you an idea of what each one will look like. So this is specifically relevant to mental well-being. And what you will see is listed A to J is the specific curriculum requirements as part of the new national curriculum. Then what you'll notice is under lesson titles is the amount of lessons that are required to be delivered as part of this topic that we've created. And then we've ticked, relevant to the lesson, what criteria is met. And in addition, you'll see highlighted the sections whereby they're not met under this specific topic, but they may be met elsewhere within our programme. Because even though they're not met within the mental health and wellbeing section, they may also be met elsewhere within the, it could be, for instance, physical health and fitness in terms of another lesson. But we really have detailed that for you so you can have a clear navigation around our schemes of learning. Now, what goes hand in hand with our scheme of learning is our crib sheets. Now, our crib sheets then break the lessons down. They help you to identify, again, the curriculum mapping, but then the duration of lessons in terms of how long it may take to teach each lesson. So as you can see here for lesson 1, it could take between 2 hours and 40 minutes to 4 hours and 10 minutes. It depends on how long you choose to spend on each activity, or whether or not you choose to undertake any of the additional activities which we've detailed within the lesson plans. And then, of course, it depends on how long it takes the learners to participate in those activities, especially if you have children with special educational needs or disabilities. You will then notice that there's topics covered. So these are the specific topics that we've identified as being covered as part of that particular lesson. And then you will see teaching tools, the way in which we diversify teaching as part of that lesson. In addition to this, as I've stated, you will get a lesson plan. And this is an example of the front of one of the lesson plans in which you'll be in receipt of. Now, primary school, the mental well-being section in terms of emotions and well-being topic is a lot larger than what it is at secondary school. So you can't quite see the additional resources, but when I show you the example template for secondary school, you'll see the additional resources in which we inform you of to use as part of that particular lesson. Now, the reason it's highlighted is because this is showing you as the teacher what section it is of the curriculum that will be covered as part of this lesson. You know, it's similar information that of course was previously presented within your crib sheet. Now this moves on to one of the other pages that are part of the lesson plan. And you can see here some examples of some activities that may be delivered as part of this lesson. What we have identified is how long it will take, the slide that is relevant to, and then actually instructions as to how to go about to deliver that activity. And then in the far right column, you can see there where it meets the national curriculum guidance in terms of the mapping. So we've made it as simple as possible, so it should be user friendly in terms of navigating your way around our teaching resources. As I say, some of our activities will meet the curriculum, but some of them are purely to enrich learning for your children and young people. On all of our PowerPoint slides, what you'll notice is this slide at the start. And this slide identifies for you some of the different activities that will take place, so that when you look at a slide, if you see any one of these symbols, it highlights to you whether or not there's an activity or resource that should be delivered with this, just to make it easier to glance your eye over in terms of preparation for teaching. So this is an example of some of the content that we have created for years 3 to 4. And as you will appreciate, whether you're working with years 1 to 2 or 5 to 6, you know, it will be content that's relevant to the age category. So what's really important is, even though we're focusing here on mental well-being, we're also thinking about how it relates to other aspects of a child's well-being. So it might be their physical hygiene, you know, having a balanced diet, and of course the promotion of regular exercise, as well as getting plenty of sleep, because you'll notice, I'm sure, when you read the curriculum, that they all feed into one another. This is another example of an activity that we would get children to complete. So it's whereby all children are asked to list emotions that they can think of, as many as they possibly can, but it's turned into a game. So that once they've devised their lists, then what happens is they get a point for each of the emotions that they've written that maybe one of their peers hasn't been able to think of. And it's to get them to learn to be able to talk about emotions and to expand their vocabulary, which of course is one of the points that's identified as part of the curriculum. We then want them to start to think about small and big emotions. And of course, again, we've got to make it, you know, an age appropriate format. So we thought about a volcano, you know, creating a volcano, and you could be quite creative with this. It could be a simple drawing, or actually you could get children to build out of paper mache and create these volcanoes, create a display. You know, it's entirely up to you as to how long you want to spend doing this, but the importance is around the articulation and understanding the different emotions and feelings that children may experience, which then of course feeds into a conversation around mental health, starting to think about mental health concerns, things surrounding stress, you know, depression, anxiety, not terms that we would be using with years 1 to 2, but of course terms that we would start to use by years 3 to 6. In addition to that, you know, we have scenario-based activities. This is an example of one relevant to year 3 to 4. You know, and these are conversations that we've seen before happen in chat forums. And what we really want learners and pupils to start to do is to think about what their response might be if this was one of their peers, if they were reading this on a chat forum. And the real importance here is to get them to start to think about support networks, what they may look like online as well as offline, and who it is they can go to seek advice and support. And you can see there's a little symbol down in the bottom right hand corner. And this is, of course, whereby we want pupils to have discussions surrounding this, whether it's in a pair or whether it's in a group based activity. Again, you know, the teacher has the opportunity to decide how to do that, but we will you know, make suggestions as to the best way in which we think that that could be delivered. And then one of the last examples I'm going to talk you through in terms of primary is this activity here, and it's Think Happy Thoughts. It's a mindfulness activity, and it's whereby pupils are asked to think or picture of a place or a time in their minds that makes them happy, essentially. There's music that you could use in addition to this in terms of the meditation, or it could simply be pupils just thinking and you talk them through a script that's detailed within the lesson plan to be able to support them in doing this activity. This is just one example of the resources that we provide. There is a whole a pack of mindfulness activities that you could do as part of this lesson. And this is an example of what some of our worksheets look like that we've created to go with the PowerPoint resources as well. You know, we would like to say that they're fairly eye-catching. They're definitely things that we think, you know, young children would engage in. And, you know, dependent on the age of the children, some of them are fairly straightforward and simple in terms of cut and stick exercises, whereas some of them require them to think a little bit more and to have a conversation with their peers before writing their responses. And of course, you know, the curriculum doesn't define how we assess our pupils. It does make suggestions as to what that might look like, but by getting pupils to complete some of these worksheets, again, that provides a good evidence base in terms of assessment of learning, especially when you start to think about that baseline data collection of your pupils, of understanding before and after they've taken part in any of these activities that you do. So that's just an example of primary, and as I say, that's only one aspect of one topic of the 13. There is a lot more to go with that, but I just really want to give you a flavour for what our content looks like. Now, this, of course, is secondary education. This is years 7 to 8. And again, we do the whole way through secondary school. You know, not just year 7 to 8, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Again, keeping with the theme of mental well-being, you can see that secondary school is actually a lot smaller, isn't it, in comparison to primary school. But there's 2 lessons that we've devised as part of this topic. And just like primary education, you can see there where we've mapped against the curriculum. And similarly, there are crib sheets along with the schemes of learning, which identify the amount of time spent on each lesson, along with the topics to be covered, and then the different types of activities as part of your teaching. By the time that we reach secondary school, we're talking more openly around mental health concerns, such as anxiety, depression, and those type of topics, because, you know, we do need pupils to understand what they mean, ultimately to be able to seek help, advice and support should they need it. But understanding that, of course, those mental health concerns can happen on and offline, because there's a real emphasis within the curriculum of the impact that online can have in terms of mental well-being. Now, you can see on this lesson plan, the aspect that I was talking about with regards to the primary education, which was cut off purely because of the amount of criteria that was required. We've identified any equipment that you require as part of your lessons. So whether or not you require flip chart, you know, glue sticks, magazines, whether or not you need audio equipment to be able to play videos. And then, of course, we've detailed the specific worksheets which need to be printed or shared as part of this particular lesson. So again, you can see here what the lesson may look like, and this is some examples of some of the activities that are delivered. One of these activities, More Than Words, is you know, a role play activity. Again, it doesn't meet any criteria, but actually it's fun and it's a different way for pupils to start to talk about emotions. And it can be a little bit silly, whereby they're required to draw out an emotion from a hat, and then to come back into the room and to sing Humpty Dumpty or Happy Birthday in that emotion, and their peers have to try and guess how they're feeling. And it's just a different way, it's a fun way of starting to talk about how we might feel. In addition to that, there is an option for pupils to take part in a quiz. It's a myth buster surrounding ill mental health, and then to define what mental health is. And what you'll quite often find is people start to talk about the topics such as anxiety and depression. But actually, when we're talking about mental health, everybody has mental health. And then this is obviously the slide that goes with the activity that I described, whereby they sing Humpty Dumpty or Happy Birthday in their emotion. And then we start to get them to think about early signs of what a mental wellbeing concern might look like before we start to talk about, mental health concerns such as anxiety and depression. And then really to start to talk about and think about the unseen pressures that children experience online. Celebrity culture, the 24/7 existence, the impact that social media might have. And then to think about actually how do they manage their online stress? And this is an example of a continuum activity whereby you can get pupils up and moving around, or if they're not able to move around because of the current situation, then you can get them voting with numbers, or you can have a discussion surrounding this. You can really, diversify the way in which you teach this. And then we want them to start to think about, thinking before they speak. So one of the other activities that goes with this is around the impact of language. And sometimes we say things when we don't actually realise the implication that could have on somebody else if they are experiencing ill mental health. Because especially by the time that we move into secondary school, we should really have, more open conversations because it's in a safe space to do it, which is why you're best placed to be able to do it within the school environment. And then, of course, the promotion of physical exercise, better sleep, and all of those types of things, as well as mindfulness activities as well for secondary education. Now, that's a very small snapshot because there is so much more that's delivered as part of this particular topic, but I just really wanted to give you an overview of some of the content that is part of that. And then, of course, we get pupils to think about gratitude prompts, thinking about some of the positives, because if we were to take a topic and focus on things like suicide, quite often when we talk to children and vulnerable persons, they mention suicide, there's sometimes a question around, well, would you like to die forever or die for today? And, and quite often there's responses around, dying for today because it's the feelings that they're experiencing. And to have a safe conversation surrounding this and to talk about, suicide in a safe way and, the impact that, ill mental health can have on a person, but ultimately the services that are there to support them. But, thinking more generically around coping strategies, and at which point in which somebody may require assistance from a more targeted service by approaching a doctor or all those types of services. Now, this is, again, an example of some of the worksheets that we have, which will be shared as part of the secondary programme. And again, many more where this comes from. So one of the things that I want to briefly talk to you about is our membership as part of this programme offer. So if you've been onto our website, you'll see that we have different memberships, bronze, silver and gold. Now, as part of our basic package, our bronze package, what you will get is, our schemes of learning, which I've shown you examples of, which really do detail the sections that parents are able to opt out of in terms of topics, lesson plans, which I've shown you examples of, And in addition to that, the resources, which I've shown you examples of also. And what you'll also be entitled to is an update with regards to the statutory guidances, any changes whilst you're in membership. And so that's any changes that we make to our resources. We will keep you up to date with those. And then, of course, membership to our community, including Q&A with some of our experts, and networking meetings on a termly basis, because that's one of the things that a lot of professionals fed back to us saying that they would like. So that's what we're offering as part of our membership. Now, if you choose to upgrade and go to our silver membership, in addition to what I've just mentioned, you will also be able to be in receipt of recorded lessons, whereby we deliver some of the curriculum areas, which are delivered by our safeguarding consultants, which can be streamed live into classrooms to be able to support teachers in terms of the delivery that they're doing, because some of these are really tricky topics that not every teacher would feel comfortable to deliver. So we would like to take the stress out of teaching for you and support you in that delivery. Now, in addition to this, if you would like to upgrade to gold, what we can also offer in addition to silver is parent awareness virtual workshops across some of the curriculum topic areas. Because as much as we want pupils to be informed, we also want to make sure that we're keeping parents and carers informed as well. So these are some of the, this is of course an overview of our membership, which shows you some of the benefits of becoming a member and purchasing our programme. Now, it does depend on how many pupils you have. It will have an impact to cost. And all of this information is available on our website for you to refer back to. What I would encourage you to do is, if you are interested following today, you can request a sample on our website, so we're able to give you access to that, because when you buy into our programme, you will then be sent a website link whereby you can go to our website and you can download the content once you've purchased it as part of your programme, which staff are able to access and download and utilise. In addition to that, we have additional resources such as guidance notes for teachers, and then parents' letters as well, which can be sent out prior to delivery of our programme. Now, one of the last things I want to mention is, in addition to our new programme, we also have something called crew workshops. Now, crew workshops we've been delivering for quite some time, but it really does support what we've created as part of this new programme. Now, our crew workshops stand for confidence, resiliency and emotional well-being. And they're classroom-based workshops facilitated by us, one of our safeguarding consultants. And we can come into your schools and we deliver these workshops, which usually last between 45 minutes to an hour in duration, dependent on the topic that you pick. Now, these topics are different to the RSE curriculum that I've just gone through, but they do support the curriculum. And there is a minimum booking of 2 topics per day, because of course we're having to come out and go to different localities of work throughout the zone. We want to make sure that your pupils are getting the best out of us being there. The more topics you book, of course, then discounts will be offered as part of that. Now, in terms of topic areas, these are the topic areas that are covered as part of our crew programme. Now, as I say, you know, they are there to support the RSE curriculum, but they do not meet the entire curriculum. They do not meet the entire topic overview as part of the RSE curriculum, but they are topics that support with that delivery delivered by us, okay? Whereby we will facilitate those lessons, of course, with one of your staff members present, and we can really have some great discussions with your pupils surrounding this. Because as I say, we've got lots of different backgrounds. My background is policing. I was a police officer for Hertfordshire Constabulary. So as you can imagine, I really enjoy the delivery of gangs, knife crime, and drugs, alcohol and tobacco, as well as grooming and exploitation and those types of topics, because there's things that I've had an awful lot of experience with that can really benefit your pupils. You can see there, pricing and packages, what that looks like. And then, of course, we can also do recorded cruise sessions as well that you can utilise and deliver in classrooms. You can pause, you can stop, you can have discussions between playing our recorded sessions as well. So you can either have that face-to-face or you can have it recorded. We're quite flexible with regards to them. So I'm conscious of time because we only have 30 minutes, and I really just wanted to give you an oversight of what it is that we're offering, because we're really excited about our new programme and we really hope that you're excited too. I'm going to pause and ask, does anybody have any questions in relation to what I've just mentioned before we draw to a close? If you do, type it in the question box or raise your hand and I will come to you and get you to unmute. Okay, nothing. That's absolutely fine. It may be that after today you have questions. Do contact us because we can support you with any of the questions that you may have. But what I will say is thank you for joining us as part of this 30-minute webinar for us to try and explain to you what it is that we're offering. Do make contact with us and visit our website if you are interested in purchasing our programme, or of course if you want to request a sample pack. The sample pack is completely free, so we can share that with you. Our business manager will share that with you. But in the meantime, do follow us on social media because we share safeguarding updates, not solely limited to the RSE curriculum, but everything safeguarding to do with children, young people, as well as adults at risk. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Take care.